Hi, I'm Reggie York. I am a professor at the University of North Carolina, Wellington. I want to provide you a little bit of instruction about a guide I have for finding a statistical measure for your study. You need a copy of it with you in order to use this particular instructions that I'm giving. This is a way of finding a statistic for your study. It covers the vast majority of data analysis situations that social work students encounter, but it's not comprehensive. You may be one of those who find you are in a unique situation where this guide does not help. In that case, of course, you need to seek consultation. But before you go to the next page, as I will go with you, you need to know the structure of your data before you can actually use that guide to find the particular statistic. This will include information on the number of variables in your data analysis, the level of measurement of each variable in your analysis, the number of categories in your nominal variable where appropriate. That's only if you have a nominal variable. Also, whether you have paired data, like pre-test, post-test scores, or independent data, which would be data from different persons for each variable. You'll review the tables from left to right by first answering the question at the top of the table that is most on the left side of that table. Just start on the left, then move across the table to answer additional questions, and you will find finally a statistical measure in the final column, which is on the right side of the table. Unless, of course, you happen to be one of those who encounters a situation where the instruction says there is not a statistical measure for this particular situation in this guide. You'll have to seek consultation to find something for your situation. When you, as you're going, while you're using that table, when you see a shaded cell in a column, then it simply means this question does not apply to you, and you just move on to the cell in the next column, moving constantly to the right of the particular table. So now let's move to the next page, where we will start the table. Here's the thing that I hope you have handy. This instructional thing I'm doing right now is just designed to give you information on how to use the table. So let's look at table A, which says determining what table to use to find a statistical measure. There are several tables here. So this is the first thing to look at. On your left here, how many variables are in your analysis? The very left column for table A. As you go down that column, you'll see that the first option there is only one variable. Then you have two variables. Then you have three or more variables. Those are the three major options there. And as you can see, the next column asks at what level are the variables measured. As you can see, for only one variable, that cell is shaded, so you don't need to answer the question. You simply go to table B. Table B is for when you have one variable, only one variable. As you can see, the same is true for three or more variables. You move down there, and you'll see that there is no table for this. You can use multiple regression analysis if all variables are measured at the interval level. And of course, there are other situations with three or more variables that are simply beyond the scope of this particular guide, which I have for you. Now, looking there at the two variable option, you can see that you have the options. One is for both, if both variables are nominal, that is measured at the nominal level, you would use table C. If at least one is ordinal, table D. If at least one is interval, table E. So as you see, you're moving across the chart or the table from left to right. So now you should know which table to use. Let's move now to the Table B, which is one of these various tables. It says selecting a statistical measure for examining the nature of one variable. If you'll look at that one, you will see, for example, if you want to describe the variable and its nominal, you can go all the way to the right and see that you can use frequencies, percentages, or mode to describe one variable that is measured at the nominal level. You'll see also if the task before you is to examine differences among the categories of the variable. You'll see that if you have two categories moving across the table, you would use the binomial test. If you have three or more categories, you would use the chi-square one sample test. So now let's move to table C, selecting a statistical measure for examining the relationship between two nominal variables. First question, are the data drawn from paired samples or independent samples? If you had paired samples or paired data, you'd look over to see whether both variables are measured as a dichotomy, meaning strictly in two categories, yes or no, as an example. If both variables are measured as a dichotomy, you can see that measure you could use is the McNear test with paired samples. If not, then you have one of the situations where it says, sorry, but no measures, and this system will fit. Now looking at independent samples, you can see that the first question you actually encounter, because the first column is shaded, is the question, does at least one variable have at least three or more categories? If the answer is yes, and you move then to the right, you'll see that the answer is chi-square test for significance contains a coefficient for the strength of the relationship. If the answer is no, you would use chi-square test for significance, same test, but you would use a different statistic for examining the strength of the relationship. In this case, it would be the phi coefficient. So moving on along, I won't go over all of these, but you can see that the next table is selecting a measure for examining the relationship between two variables where at least one is measured at the ordinal level. I hope by now you've gotten the gist of this. You just start at the left, at what level of the two variables measured, move across the table to find yourself a particular statistic. I hope this is useful to you. Let me go to, before I finish though, let me go to table F, which is a little bit different, because this is selecting a statistical test for selected human service evaluations. This is when you're doing an evaluation type of study. You're evaluating an intervention. Here we have a different kind of set of instructions. One asks you about the research design because that tells us something about the structure of your data. So take the example, the first example, the one group pretest post-test with a single score to represent the pretest rather than an array of pretest scores, meaning you just got one thing to compare it to before treatment. The level of measurement is interval. Statistical test that you could use would be the one sample t-test. And there is an Excel file that is in my particular system of instruction, if you're in one of my courses, that's entitled One Sample T-Test, Threshold, and Post-Test, and the note tells you what this is useful for. I hope this guide has been helpful to you in finding a statistical measure.